Fi diddly dee, the sailor's life for me. Oh yeah, War at Sea. That's probably not the right song. Sorry. Konnichiwa, comrades. We're taking Japan back into War at Sea, capitalizing on what little I learned from the last game and taking an air-dominant strategy against our buddy Memphis Mark. We're going to use a lot of fighters, and we're hopefully going to claim the air and then try to capitalize on it by just destroying his surface fleet. And Memphis Mark has taken a fairly heavy surface fleet with the Mighty Mo, as well as quite a few other ships to run interference for the one carrier he has and those nasty Helldivers. War at Sea is a great game. This time we're warming up again. It had been a long time since I last played a game of War at Sea, but you guys asked for it, and here we go. We happen to have a few extra moments before a Battletech game, and my buddy Mark decided, hey, you know, I've got War at Sea out in the car, and it took us all of maybe 10 seconds to decide, yeah, okay, let's do that instead. But it's been a while. I remembered that running those float planes as interference and using them to help assist other fighters in their attack roles was very useful, and that's what I'm going to end up doing this time. He loses initiative, moves first, and tries to put his surface fleet into an aggressive position, putting the subs against all of the objectives. In response, Japan moves its fleet forward, sending the subs up next to his subs. They have submerged shot. Again, we're hoping to contest the subs, or at least give them a little bit of a headache so that the carrier fleet can be preoccupied doing other things. Specifically, I can send those wonderful float planes out there to shadow some other targets that I want to actually destroy. And as we move into the air phase, he starts getting aggressive, throwing a lot of fighters and bombers over the light escort carrier. But we were expecting this. We can lose the Shoho if we need to. We just need to attract all his bombers and then just mercilessly shoot them all down. And as he does, I begin sicking all my fighters at him, moving them over there, using the carrier's abilities to give them all fighter ace abilities to help shoot down those Helldivers so that I can at least clean the sky, or at least we're going to focus on the Hellcats. Align 2 fighters to each Hellcat and then a fighter against both of the Helldivers. And on the rest of the board, we go ahead and sick the float planes against his subs, try to do as much damage, but the air war over top of the Shoho is becoming a complete mess. We're not doing much damage to them, as the Hellcat proves to be an incredibly sturdy platform. I can't quite put any kind of damage onto it, and the Helldivers, they just do not care. I can throw all the ack I want at it, and I can't seem to do any sort of damage to them. And those bombers, those Helldivers are nasty. With that extra armor point from improved armor, I do believe, allows them to almost shrug off the Japanese fighters. I can't seem to do any damage to it, but I can sink the destroyer escort that managed to move just a little slowly. I managed to pick it off since the bombers had free rein to do whatever they wanted. But the firefight over the Shoho is intensifying. I try to throw everything I can against those Helldivers, but man, they are nasty. And as they go in, undeterred, they manage to do devastating damage to the Shoho, sinking it outright, leaving me one less light carrier. I did not expect that. I mean, this was my gambit. Let the bombers come and then just blow everything up. Okay, we can lose one carrier. That's fine. This is, again, part of our strategy. We're just luring out the bombers and fighters and then letting the fighters rip them up. But we got nothing for that. We just lost a carrier and we have nothing to show for it. I mimic his movements to some degree. I move the carriers forward, though in retrospect I don't think it was necessary to do so. We can hide behind the islands, but it's not beneficial to me because he has more surface cruisers that can just flank and find an opening somewhere that's going to be able to take a shot at the carriers. In retrospect, it was a really poor idea. Once again, I begin moving the Emilys out. We start using them as my first sticks to throw out there to keep him guessing where I'm going to devote my fighters, use them to shadow a couple targets. And as we do, I begin sicking a bunch of bombers against the Mighty Mo. We're going to do some damage. We need to soften him up just a little bit. The Emilys kind of leaded him into thinking that. And the fighters, once again, are scrambled to protect the Zoikaku. The Helldivers are just screaming over the Zoikaku, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it right now. We've got one light cruiser over there, the Tone, that is capable of doing a lot of anti-aircraft fire, but once again, those Helldivers are just irrepressible. They just keep coming, and no matter what kind of firepower I throw into them, they just don't stop, and the Zeros are just plugging them full of holes, but I can't seem to put them down. And as they do, the Zoikaku ends up taking one for the team as the Helldivers press it home, destroying another Japanese carrier, and there's absolutely nothing I can show for it. I'm doing what I can. I don't mind losing a ship or two if I can bait out his bombers into an unescorted position and then just send the fighters at them. But now that I'm losing carriers, they're all going to have to go back to land bases, and it's going to take another turn to cycle them out. But instead of losing the fighters, again, we're going to keep with this strategy. We're going to start cycling out the bombers back to their land bases so that we can hopefully shoot down some of these things. Because right now, he's killing a ship a turn. I can't afford to keep losing things like this. The Emily bombers, however, are doing a fantastic job of harrying the different subs out there. The Archerfishes can't seem to really do much when they're constantly being threatened with taking another point of damage from anti-submarine warfare, and those Emilys are just fantastic at it. They're relatively cheap, and you can throw them out everywhere. Nonetheless, the air war over the Zoikaku intensifies, and I can't seem to shoot down anything. Once again, even the Tone manages to just barely ding one of the Helldivers, but we still lose the Zoikaku. And it was amazing. As a matter of fact, we looked at the sheets. He was just 1 point over the total needed to destroy it outright. And a matter of fact, we thought it was the Akagi at first, and I noticed I had my chits, or at least my cards, in the wrong position, and I don't remember the Akagi ever having that paint scheme. And that's when I realized, wait, that's the Zoikaku, that's not the Akagi. Meanwhile, the surface fleets start engaging each other in a somewhat lopsided engagement between the Oi, Yukikaze, and the Fletcher and a Missouri, and it ends up being rather fortuitous for the Japanese fleet. As the shells are flung at each other from distant ranges, the Japanese managed to make effective damage, returning just about all the damage that they were getting in return from the American fleets. However, anytime you're engaging an older cruiser against actually the Oi is a fast destroyer, it's going to be a bad trade with the Missouri, even though with the shells running hot, they managed to sink the Oi, and we managed to only kill one destroyer in return. That's another poor trade, but again, that should be expected, because the Mighty Mo opened up with her guns, did a little bit of damage, and we return back to the airstrike on the Missouri, and it ends up being mostly ineffectual. The Missouri, in the last turn that we have all the bombers to throw at the Missouri, manages to shirk off a couple of them, and it leaves the Missouri untouched. And as you can tell, this is a tipping point for the battle. The Japanese have lost most of their strike capability and are now completely reliant on the surface fleet being able to hold off the impressive U.S. arsenal as they begin taking a dominant position up the center of the board. In this turn, we're able to take off a couple of American destroyers, but for the most part, I do believe we sink a sub, but it's almost completely ineffectual. There is chaos on the board, and we have not been able to secure any kind of significant advantage against the American fleets, but we've lost a significant chunk of the strategic reserves. If there was a high command somewhere telling me about what was going on, I'm pretty sure the Japanese high command would be really, really ticked that I'm losing the strategic capability of their entire navy. So at this point, I start backpedaling. Again, the carrier is full of fighters, and we move the Akagi back. We don't want to engage with the frickin' Missouri in a surface action. That would be disastrous. And now, increasingly, the Emily is left to do most of the damage out there, hunting down subs, shadowing the cruisers, and trying to lead him on to where I'm actually going to go with my bombers that don't exist anymore, not for this turn. So the fighters are left to try to make themselves felt because, my gosh, what are we paying these people for? So we engage them again against Helldivers and against the fighters, and we just throw everything we can at them. We need to at least kill something to make it seem worthwhile. I mean, we had to pull a fighter back from one of the air bases because the Shoho had sunk. This is the turn. This is the last hurrah. Let's shoot something down. And as the Tone defiantly engages the Missouri, the air war intensifies over top of it, and the Japanese fighters manage to finally do some damage. And they divert one set of Dauntlesses. Everyone else was completely unimpeded. The Missouri begins opening up fire against the Tone. The Tone returns fire, punching well above his weight. It's a magnificent cruiser in my mind, or at least right now it is, because it's engaging a battleship, and it manages to do a point of damage against the Missouri, while its escort destroyer manages to deal a bit of damage to another escort destroyer that is nearby the Missouri, and the sub in the area manages to completely whiff it, doing absolutely nothing. It's amazing that the Japanese subs have existed up until this point, but now that they're engaging American destroyers, yeah, they're all just dying left and right. As a matter of fact, the San Francisco begins engaging the destroyers that he can seize, completely gets rid of them. The other cruiser on the northern end of the board decides to go ahead and deck everything it can see too, leaving the Japanese less for it, and then the Mighty Mo opens up against the Tone. I will leave that dice roll for the discerning viewer to see how much damage he did to it. We only had the Akagi left after that, and that's no way to win a war. I go ahead and call it. There's nothing I can do at that point. Besides, he had all the objective points. So he gets all the points. All of the points. I get something. I just a couple for a couple destroyers and a sub. It was nothing. I actually lost a significant chunk of the Japanese strategic fleet to kill a couple ships that are, like 7 of them are coming out every week in America. And that's been an Ouchies Batrep, and thanks for watching. I don't know really where I went wrong. I think the list was probably a little light on the surface units. I mean, I could have used a battleship or a cruiser or something. In fact, I was really surprised about how much damage the Tone can do in anti-aircraft fire. But nonetheless, those Helldivers are nasty. I'm not sure going with an air intercept strategy like I was for the Japanese is completely worthwhile when the U.S. can throw such heavy bombers at you. It's something I'll have to think on.
No, I'm kicking his ass. I've already got one carrier in the water.
Every turn a carrier sinks.
I've actually got 2 carriers of his playing submarine.
I'm glad this is happening to you, Tony. I want you to listen to this while you're editing film. You should have played BattleTech.
The fact of life.
Yes, you should have played BattleTech. Should he have not? I mean, look at this. I mean...
Hey, Huddle.
Oh, sorry. I'll be back later.